like to start off just by telling you a little bit about myself. I was conceived on top of a keg of beer on St. Patrick's Day. Now, to be honest, I never really wanted to be Irish. I mean, what's the first thing you think of when you think of the Irish?
Leprechauns.
That's right, the Great Potato Famine of the 1840s. I mean, who wants to be associated with millions of people killed by a vegetable? Now, despite my people's depressingly inept history with farming, I have grown to love the vegetables. I eat them all the time. I even went so far as to date a vegetarian. That's not an easy task. I mean, of course, I did play practical jokes on her from time to time, just little things like, I would eat her dog. I'd hide hamburger meat in her mashed potatoes. My favorite was making out with a little bit of steak tucked discreetly beneath my tongue. I mean, the look on her face when she got a mouthful of meat. It's priceless. So, I am a second-year medical student. I don't know you. And the worst part about it is that I get asked over and over again, what kind of doctor do you want to be? And I have no idea. But to prevent 10 minutes of boring chit-chat, I always tell people the same thing. Geriatric gynecology. Yeah, no follow-up questions. There is something about the elderly vagina that people just don't want to talk about. I go to family reunions and grandmothers just break for the exits. Grandma, don't leave! Grandma! Come on! It's my dream job! So I just moved here from Texas about 2 years ago. And honestly, I had no idea what life in New England was like before I got here. You know, my knowledge extended up to like Oklahoma. So if you had asked me what I was looking forward to the most about moving to New England, there's a really good chance I would have said living amongst the Eskimos. Now, you know, it's not that I have something in common with the Eskimo, because I really don't. I just really like their pies.
I'm a little nervous tonight, because I'm trying out some new stuff, and I think probably what makes me most nervous is that I've seen what the effect of the threat of new stuff can have on people, as like 3 of you just walked into the bathroom right now. But where I saw this was this summer. I saw John Mellencamp at the fairgrounds. He was here with Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. And did I just get a tiny woo for John Mellencamp? Somebody, like, one person did? Oh, okay. I didn't think so. But anyway, about halfway through his set, he gets on the mic and he's like, all right, like, who wants me to play an old song? And everyone goes, yeah, woo! And they start clapping, even though Mellencamp kind of sucks and, like, you know, it's not really warranted, but whatever, it's polite. So yeah. And then he's like, all right, who wants to hear a new song? And everyone went, and did absolutely nothing. Like, 10,000 people stunned to silence. Like, you want to bring a crowd to its knees and just silence them, threaten them with new John Mellencamp. I mean, that will shut them down. And I mean, even like the guy who claps in Jack and Diane, like, he didn't clap. Like, that's like his one job. Like, that's all he does. He's on stage and he's like, I want to hear an old song. Like, I want to hear Jack and Diane. Like, that's one fucking song I clap in. Like, might as well let me play it. Like, he brought me on stage for one song, let's do it. And even then he didn't do it because he kind of sucks. So, but no, it was quiet. It was, you could actually hear like Willie Nelson's bong making noise in the background. Like, what? He just threatened to play a new song? Like, damn, Mellencamp sucks. Like, Willie Nelson agrees. But, no, like Mellencamp, I was born in a small town, and I still live in a small town. That's what we call a segue. But I grew up here. I grew up around here. I grew up in Vermont, and which has a very small town atmosphere in the sense that you keep running into people you went to high school with. Unfortunately, it's people who define you based on how they remember you from high school. So like I go to this place to get sandwiches, and there's this guy behind the counter who allegedly I went to school with. I don't remember him. But he only knows me through this mutual acquaintance named Dan. And every time he sees me, he's always like, hey, you seen Dan lately? And that's how he talks too, because like he's a mouth breather, and like I know we use that in like a pejorative sense most of the time, but he's literally a mouth breather. He breathes out of his mouth. You seen Dan lately? And I'm like, no. And here's the thing about Dan. I haven't seen Dan lately. I don't want to see Dan lately. I'm a little upset I ever saw Dan to begin with. All right, Dan and I were friends for maybe 2 months in high school. He was a tool, and he smelled, and I went to his house, and his house smelled, and his pet smelled, and his parents were a little funky. It was bad. Here's the thing about Dan. I heard that Dan worked at the Applebee's at the U-Mall. I have never been to the Applebee's, and I never will. Not now, not ever. And this was like 8 years ago. I heard he worked in this Applebee's. I don't want to risk it. Until I hear that place got torched and they found him inside, and I know he's gone. I'm not going to Applebee's. And the thing is, I've actually carried this across state lines, in case he got called up through the Applebee's farm system and is working at a better restaurant. I can't take that chance. So I blacklisted an entire national restaurant chain based on Dan. That's what I think about Dan. But Sandwich Guy, whose name I don't even know, I just call him Dan Friend because he's Dan's friend. And he's like, you see Dan? He's a wild man. And I'm like, wait, that's what he always says. He always says, Dan's a wild man. That's not true. I know it's not true. And I don't know if you're trying to impress me with, Dan's great accomplishments. I think computers are great. I think technology these days is fantastic and do all sorts of amazing things. But computers can be smarter. Case in point, Google. Let's say I'm Googling, the Grapes of Wrath, because I want to know more about Depression-era literature and, dazzle you with my knowledge, when, in fact, I stopped reading halfway through the table of contents. I was like, there's going to be a chapter 6, fuck this. So I Google, and maybe I screw up the letters, I'm typing, whatever, I'm not paying attention, and Google then gives me this, and it goes, didn't you mean Grapes of Wrath? No, Google, I meant Grips of Worth. You couldn't figure out that, I misplaced, 2 letters, and, here, don't sass me, Google. I didn't do a search for attitude. I think you're so big just because, a Google is a lot of something, whatever. So, but it's why stop there, well, just hit me further. Didn't you mean to read this in high school like everybody else? Didn't you mean to do a little more with your life, because Google turns into your dad all of a sudden, and so of course you get mad and you're pounding away at Google, and you're like, I'll show Google, and your insults, and you're just mashing the keys and whatever, and you hit the enter, and then Google goes, didn't you mean suck my balls? And I'm like, no, Google, I meant sick my bilfs, okay? I want you to sick 'em long and sick 'em hard with 5 Ds. So, all right, I gotta go. I smelled Dan coming. Let's go.
He did this a month ago, and he was funny then, and he was funny tonight. I did this a month ago, and I was funny. I think lightning's only going to strike once for me. It's just an awful feeling I've decided to say out loud. I want to say something. I'm not a comic who tries to make a lot of political points, but I got to say, where are the lady comics? How weird is that? Women in the room? I value your opinions. I value perspective. I'd like to tell you a story that is my best attempt at speaking to the female psyche. It also works as a cautionary tale for the men in the room, so listen closely. We all have strange ideas that pop into our head, and we think, well, I'm not going to say that out loud. That would get me into a world of trouble. I don't do that. I just blurt shit out. And then I live in the world that I've now created for myself, okay? I'm hanging out with my girlfriend about a month ago, and I say to her, say what you will about Katie Holmes, because she's never said anything about Katie Holmes. Say what you will about Katie Holmes, but that new short, stylish haircut she has, God, that's about the sexiest haircut I've ever seen on a woman. But yours is good too. So my girlfriend has put up with my nonsense. She doesn't say anything. A couple weeks later, she calls me and says, I've thought about it. I'm going to get my hair cut. And I've got a hair appointment tomorrow, and you're coming with me. Now, I should be excited.